What is up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood webware fanatic, and today we are ranking all the aggression upgrades in Marvel Champions. So let's go ahead and get started here with our first upgrade. We have a one-cost upgrade, Attack Training. So this is attached to an X-Men ally, max one training upgrade per ally. So this is an ally upgrade that you give to an ally. Attached ally gets plus one attack and plus two hit points. So I think that this is definitely one of the better ally upgrades in the game, if not one of the best ones. So I'm gonna put this in a B tier here. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of ally upgrades because you really have to play a specific type of deck to take advantage of them. And even though this is one of the best ones, it is limited to only one training upgrade per ally, right? Because it just had the training thing and you can only give it to an X-Men ally. But I mean, getting plus one attack and plus two hit points is invaluable. It's just not going to go into A tier here for me because a lot of the higher pressure scenarios, like let's say if you play a two cost ally, like an X-Men ally, and you give it the attack training, well, that buffs up the ally crazy, right? Because it gets more hit points and it gets an extra attack. But if you're facing like Ronin and then he's hitting you for 15, you might need that ally to chump block for you. And when that happens, you lose all these effects of the attack training and you just kind of wasted playing it. So because a lot of the more difficult scenarios stack on so much pressure, it's hard to get training upgrades out whenever you don't have that leeway. So I think a lot of times, not training upgrades, ally upgrades, I mean. So I think a lot of times ally upgrades are more of a win more type of play style. So because of that reason, it could definitely help you win against like Ronin or Venom Goblin, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And because of that reason, I am a little bit wary about putting ally upgrades in A tier because they need other cards to support them. But definitely one of the better ally upgrades in the game and a really good one. Okay, next we have Battle Fury. This is a one cost upgrade. Play under any player's control. Response after your hero attacks and defeats a minion. Do one damage to your hero and discard Battle Fury. Ready up your hero. So this card, I think this card goes in a D tier. I don't really think that this is a very good way to ready. There's way too many conditions. So let's talk about the pros about this card. So the pro is it's only a one cost upgrade, so it's very cheap, and you can just get this upgrade straight down. And the response is after your hero attacks and defeats a minion. So your hero needs to be the one that attacks, and then you need to also defeat the minion. When it says attacks, you can't play an attack event because that counts as your hero attacking. You need to defeat that minion, and then you need to take a damage on yourself, and then you can discard this card and write it back up. So it's kind of only a one use type of thing, and it's only max one per player. So like I'm trying to think about like end game scenarios where you could really take advantage of this. If you have like three out, you can clear up all the minions and then still be ready to like I don't know attack the villain or something like that. But even if you could, you can't because it's max one per player, and then you have to take a damage each time you do it, and then you lose the effective here. So I mean there are, I can't even see a like there. I feel like there's almost no situation where Battle Fury is going to be a good card, and it's definitely a not the best way to get it ready because of the caveat of defeating a minion. And yeah, if it could just be doing the damage or something like that, it would be a lot better. But yeah, I think this card is definitely not a card that's going to get any use from me. Next, we have another one cost upgrade, Brute Force. Your hero gets plus one attack. Your basic attacks gain piercing. And then force response after you make a basic attack, discard Brute Force. So it's a force response. That means you must trigger it whenever you can. So Brute Force here goes in the C tier for me. I think it's still not a really good card, but there are situations where it can be very good. At worst, it's just a one cost upgrade that gives you plus one attack and piercing, so you can pierce through a toughness. But then the bad thing is that you can't really save it for that because it's a force response, so it's going to be the next time that you attack. So a cool thing with this is you could play cards that do damage to an enemy equal to the amount of attack that your hero has, right? So if you do anything like that, or cards that revolve around your hero, there's a lot of aggression cards where you can remove a threat based on the attack that you have, right? So anything that's calculating your hero's attack stat, Brute Force is going to be great for that, but you just gotta make sure that you never make a basic attack, because if you make a basic attack, you lose the Brute Force and you lose that plus one attack. So in those situations, it can be very good. If you're not playing those situations, then it's not that good of a card. Next, we have Combat Training. Two cost upgrade. Play under any player's control. Max one per player. Your hero just gets plus one attack. So one of the original upgrades in the core set. Yeah, this is just a super duper good card. Let me think. Am I gonna put it? Is it gonna be B tier or A tier? And I'm gonna put it in the B tier right now because I don't put it in a lot of aggression decks that I play. But at the same time, I could definitely see it being a staple card. I mean, +1 attack. I'm gonna put it in A tier for now. I actually think it's a really good card, even though I don't use it as often, especially for aggression, right? So it's the same as this brute force thing. Uh, one costs more, you don't get the piercing, but it's just a permanent +1 attack. So for all those situations where you get the extra attack bonus, this card is gonna be good. Even if you're not playing that type of style where you just are just rushing the villain down, the +1 attack is good. If you're not rushing the villain down, just having this card out, having +1 attack is always going to be valuable. So I think because of that, I am going to put it here in the A tier. Definitely a very good card. Yeah, and it can definitely go into any deck, even though I don't use it that often for aggression. But I mean, I could definitely see it going into every aggression deck. So a very, very solid card. Just getting that +1 stat is like permanently, because it's an upgrade, it's super duper good. Next we have a 1-cost upgrade again, Counterattack, max 1 per player, hero response, so you can only trade this in hero form. After you take damage from an enemy attack, discard Counterattack, deal an equal amount of damage to that enemy. So this is a very, very good card, especially when you're playing Rush, but even not when you're not playing Rush, I mean. Anytime you take any amount of damage, you don't have to trigger it because it's not a force response. You can just wait until the enemy hits you for a lot. You can plan for them to hit you a lot, right? A lot of the harder scenarios hit you for a lot all the time, and you can just kind of lie in wait. So yeah, I think this is a very good card. I'm gonna put this card in the B tier, and is it gonna be? I think this card would be like invaluable if it was like not max 1 per player, so you could put like 3 of them out at the same time, but you only have 1 out at the same time. Is it better than attack training? Attack training is a really good upgrade here. I think I'm gonna put it above the attack training, just because attack training is an ally upgrade. And then for the counterattack, I mean, if you have this out on the field, it's almost always going to be useful because the villain's always attacking you. You know, at worst you probably do like 3 damage to the villain. At most you do like 10 plus damage. So definitely more beneficial if your hero has more hit points and can tank more damage. And yeah, just only 1 cost for being able to dish that out and being able to just keep it in play and waiting until the villain hits you pretty hard. I think this is a very, very powerful card. The only reason I don't put it in A tier is because you need to take a lot of damage, and not every deck wants to take damage. So you gotta kind of play in a way to where you want to take damage, or that you can tank a lot of like damage from the villain. And if taking that much damage kind of ruins your game, then this card's not going to be as useful. Next we have the Energy Spear. So this is another ally upgrade. It's a 1-cost upgrade attached to a Guardian ally. So similar to the X-Men one, but this is only for X-Men for the attack training, and then the Energy Spear can only go on a Guardian. Max 1 per ally. Attached ally gets +2 attack, and its attacks gain piercing. So I mean, this is crazy. This is very commonly used with Bug. +2 attack is insane. I think this is definitely. I'm gonna just put it right here, because I think it's better than the attack train. Aggression actually has very, very good ally upgrades, which I don't think I've noticed until now. But yeah, I mean, the caveats are that you have to put it on a Guardian ally, but when we're evaluating this card, we're going to evaluate as if we're playing, with a bunch of Guardian allies. And this card, as if we're playing with a bunch of X-Men allies. Only 1 per ally, but 2 attack is invaluable, and the attacks gain piercing. So I mean, this is very good with Bug, which is an aggression ally, because Bug can always heal up whenever your hero makes a base attack, and in aggression, you're probably going to be making base attacks with your hero. So yeah, I mean, 2 attack is crazy, and the piercing just makes it like melt through enemies, especially enemies that have toughness. So very, very good, kind of useful utility type of ally upgrade. And 2 attack is like one of the craziest stat boosts that you can give on an ally, especially if you keep that ally in play for a long time. Next we have Enraged, another 1-cost upgrade. Attached to an ally, max 1 per ally. Attached ally gets +2 attack and takes +1 consequential damage after attacks. So this card I don't think is going to be as good. I'm going to put this. I think I can see it having play. Let's put it for right here for now, and then we can evaluate a little bit more. So it's the same thing, only one per ally, and you give it to an ally. So this one is kind of like, you give it to the ally, it gets crazy +2 attack, just like the Energy Spear, but you take +1 consequential damage after attacks. So if it's a 2-cost ally and you give them this upgrade, they're probably just gonna die because they'll take 1 consequential damage normally, and then they get 1 activation and then die. If you give it to an ally that's expensive, like a 3-cost ally, then when they take an extra consequential damage, they do a little more damage with the +2 attack, but then you either have them chump block or they'll die at the next activation. So you want to give it on an expensive ally to get more use out of it, to get multiple attack activations. But then if you do that, you're kind of wasting that cost because they get less activations because they're taking more consequential damage. And you don't want them to chump block if you give them this upgrade. So after evaluating like that, I'm actually going to put this in a D tier. I'm going to put it behind Battle Fury. No, I'm going to put it in front of Battle. Actually, they're both bad. Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything that benefits out of allies having extra attack, right? Like the brute force benefits if your hero has more attack, because some cards do more effects, like removing more threat if your hero has attack, right? Like it calculates your hero's attack stat and translates it to Thor removal or whatever that you need or damage, right? But I don't think there's anything that does that for allies. So because of that, the ally stat's not really calculated, at least right now, where we're at with our current card pool. I think I'm gonna just leave the Enraged as a worse card than the Battle Fury, because at least the Battle Fury it can help you clear off some minions while taking damage. And both not good cards, hard for me to rank, but I'll just put it right here for now. Next we have Fluid Motion, a 1-cost upgrade. Hero responds after you play an attack event. Exhaust this card. Your hero gets +1 attack until the end of the phase, max 1 per attack event. So this is not max 1 per player, right? So you can have multiple Fluid Motions in play. This card I think goes in the C tier. And this is a very good card, right? I just think it's too situational to put any higher. If you're getting the full benefits of this card, it definitely goes up into like the A tier. So I think this is a very powerful card, and in the correct situation, it's very, very good. But you have to be playing a deck where you are utilizing that attack stat, right? In most decks, at least in my experience, most decks, especially against the higher difficulty scenarios, you won't have a chance to really do that. So when you play that attack event, it costs resources probably, and you can exhaust this card to get +1 attack, and then you either need your hero to attack, or you need to play another event that calculates your hero's attack stat. So, and it only lasts until the end of the phase. So if you're playing like a ready hero, right, obviously that's going to be really good. If you're calculating your hero's attack stat a lot, it's going to be very, very good. But because of that, I'm going to put it in the C tier because you need that. You need other cards that calculate your hero's attack stat, just like the brute force does. And it's not good by itself. Yeah, so C tier is for cards that I think are very situational and that you need to build around to maximize your full potential. And I think Fluid Motion actually goes in that category, even though it can be a very powerful card with very, very high potential, like an A tier card if you maximize it. Next, we have a 2-cost upgrade, Follow Through. As a hero interrupt, when your hero's attack deals any amount of excess damage, increase that amount by 1. So the thing is, aggression has a lot of things where you get benefits off of excess damage. I'm tempted to put this is either gonna be last in the C tier or like in the B tier. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the C tier for right now. So there is a lot of times where excess, especially if you have overkill, right? I think that Follow Through is a situational card, and it's more situational than these two cards here, but and it's a little bit more expensive. But it's not max 1 per player, so you can have 3 of these, and then when your hero deals any amount of excess damage, increase that amount by 1. So if you're doing overkill, you can increase the overkill by 1. This card doesn't exhaust, so it's every single time that you do excess damage. So you're playing like, I don't know, Ultron, you have like 3 drone minions, right? And you're playing some hero that can overkill all 3. Well, that excess damage goes crazy because you increase that amount by 1. So if you have 3 follow throughs, it's doing 3 extra overkill damage on the villain every single time, and that can definitely build up and be good. But I do think that that has a very situational type of effect, which is why it does go last here in the C tier, and it's definitely more situation than these cards, because you really got to build around not only excess damage, but overkill damage to maximize it. But definitely if you do that, it's a very good card, but yeah, just very situational. Next we have a 0-cost upgrade, the Gatekeeper, attached to a minion. Attached minion gets +2 hit points and gains patrol. Okay, so you're powering up a minion. As an interrupt, when an attached minion is defeated, remove 4 threat from the main scheme. So this is actually a very unique card. You power up the minion, it only gets 2 hit points and you can't thwart. But then when you defeat the minion, you can remove 4 threat from the main scheme. So at worst, if there's a minion that's in play and it has like, like a drone minion, like the weakest of all minions, and you play the Gatekeeper on it, it's a 0-cost thing. You have to attack and defeat the minion anyways. And then when you defeat, you can just remove threat, a 4 threat, which is actually a lot of threat for 0 cost. But this is pretty much a spider tracer, like Peter Parker spider tracer, except it's free to play, and you buff up the minion. So unfortunately, because it's plus 2 hit points, if it was plus 1 hit point, it would be a lot more manageable. But because it is plus 4 hit points, I don't think that it's going to be as good. It's definitely in the C tier. I don't think it's a D tier card. There are situations for it. Um, but I mean, it's the same as a Spider Tracer, and you buff up the minion. I mean, I think I'm gonna put it behind the follow through because, man, I mean, you need to do so. If a minion has 1 hit point and your hero has 2 attack, when you put this card in it, your hero can't attack and defeat anymore. You need at least a hero with 3 attack, and only on the minion with 1 hit point can you really get the full benefits of this card because you don't want to do any extra type of damage to defeat the minion. You want to defeat the minion as you would normally, and then just play this card to remove the 4th threat. But if you're playing this card, your hero attacks, then you need to play another attack event or have an ally attack that minion as well. That's wasting 2 attacks on that 1 minion whenever it could have just been 1. So because of that, I mean, 2 hit points is a lot more hit points. So I'm going to give it 0 cost, or I'm going to give it a last in the C tier. I think that giving the minion patrol is really good because this is going to remove the threat anyway, so it doesn't matter that the minion has patrol. And but yeah, I mean that 2 hit points is a little bit hefty, and you have to attach the minion, so there must be a minion in play. That's not the biggest deal for aggression because aggression can often deal with a lot of minions and put minions into play. But I mean 2 hit points is a lot more to give that minion. But definitely it's a C tier card because I think you can maximize its potential if you're playing a deck that has a lot of overkill or excess damage or a lot of damage to minions, because that can really maximize the effects of the Gatekeeper here. Okay, so next we have Godslayer, a 3 cost upgrade. This is a restricted weapon that goes on your hero. Hero Interrupt. When your hero makes a basic attack against a unique enemy, exhaust Godslayer, your hero gets plus 2 attack for that attack. So plus 2 attack is invaluable. At best, it's just going to be a plus 2 attack once per phase because you have to exhaust this card. But getting that 2 attack, I think is very, very good. I don't think it's as good as the combat training here because a 1 attack for everything, right? You definitely want that attack for minion control. But the thing is, the Godslayer helps you against the unique minions, right? A lot of the tougher minions might be unique. So I'm tempted to, let's see, is this a B tier card? I'm gonna put it in the B tier. I'll put it last in the B tier because it's so expensive to play. But having a weapon upgrade, yeah, and then with other aggression cards that might have you exhaust a weapon upgrade to get an effect, you don't want this card exhausted, which kind of hurts it because it needs to exhaust to use its effect to give you the plus 2 attack, and it's just going to be a little bit more situational. But if you have this out on the field, it's always going to be useful because the villain is always unique. Well, not every villain. What's it called? Project Wide Awake, the Sentinel is not unique, but almost every scenario is going to have a unique villain, so it's almost always going to be useful whenever you're attacking the villain, right? Because you get that plus 2 attack for the villain. But a lot of times you need more work control, you need to clear off minions that have guard and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a little bit more situational, but definitely still a good card. And definitely if I have an empty rush spot in my deck, I can easily just put the Godslayer in because it's always going to be useful if it's out on the field. Next we have the Hand Cannon, a 2 cost upgrade, and it's restricted as well, and it comes in with 3 charge counters. Hero Interrupt. When your hero makes a basic attack, exhaust the Hand Cannon and then remove 1 charge counter from it. Your hero gets plus 2 for that attack, and the attack gains overkill. So this card I think is very, very good. This either goes very high B or in the A tier. Let's see. So the only thing that's bad about this card is that it comes in with charge counters. So when you use it 3 times, it's done. But it's 2 costs, which is pretty cheap. And then when you make a basic attack, you get plus 2 for that attack. So same as the Godslayer, very, very good. You use it on minions or on the villain. And in the game, it gains overkill, so you can overkill. So I think because of that overkill, I'm actually going to put it in the A tier here because the overkill has so much synergy with a lot of other aggression cards, right? And it helps with like, excess damage too with the follow through. So like if you use follow through with a hand cannon, it's 1 extra damage that overkills over to the villain. So I mean, this is a very, very good card. Yeah, I think it's a solid A tier card. It can go in any deck. And definitely you can build around it to maximize its full potential and make it even stronger. You can have this weapon upgrade out and then use cards that exhaust upgrades, and then whenever you don't need to use the charge counters, because you can choose whenever you want the charge counters to trigger, or not when you want it to trigger, but when you want to use a hand cannon, right? You can just leave it out and make a basic attack where you don't trigger the hand cannon. And then yeah, and you can have two out at the same time because it's restricted, so you can have two restricted cards at once. So yeah, I think this is a very solid card. Definitely another A tier upgrade for aggression. Next we have Hone Technique. So this is a 3-cost upgrade. The requirement to pay for it is at least 2 mental resources and is max 1 per player. Interrupt when you play an aggression attack event. If you pay for that event using a mental resource, increase the amount of damage that event deals by its printed cost. So this card is so powerful because every single aggression event that you play, the cost of that card gets added to the damage. But there are a lot of conditions. So this is gonna hurt, but I like this card a lot. I'm gonna put it first in the C tier. And I mean, if you maximize its full potential, right, like with strong aggression events, like with Dive Bomb or something like that, I mean, Hone Technique goes in the S tier, right? But because of all the conditions that you need for it, I'm gonna put it in the C tier because it is completely useless unless you fulfill all the requirements. So you have to really plan around and build your deck. Your whole entire deck has to go around the Hone Technique. Um, I'm tempted to put in A tier because it's that good of a card to where sometimes you want to play aggression just for Hone Technique, but at the same time, it's just too much. Yeah, it's just a lot of conditions here. So, and this really hurts to put in the C tier here. But I think I might just no. I think it is a C tier card because it is a completely dead card if you're not building specifically for it. And even when you do build for it, you need to have a lot of mental resource in your aggression deck, right? So it has some anti synergy with a lot of other aggression cards that benefit off of physical resources, right? Like there is I don't know if it's an upgrade. Oh yeah, so right here the martial prowess. This is a 2-cost aggression upgrade, and then you can exhaust it to generate a physical resource for an attack event. That does not have synergy with the Hone Technique because Hone Technique is whenever you pay for an attack event with a mental resource, right? So I think just because of the anti-synergy with mental resource and aggression, because aggression usually wants physical resources, and then the requirement, not only is there a requirement when you pay for it, right, because you need at least 2 mental resources to pay for the 3 costs, so you can't just like get the cost down zero and just play. You have to actually pay that 2 mental resources, but you can get it in and bypass the requirement to play it from your hand if you have something like a actually I don't think there's anything that gets it in actually, but yeah, if there's some way to get it into play, like from your deck or something, which I'm not sure if there is, but if there is, then you can bypass it. But if not, you have in your hand, you have to pay that cost right there, the 2 energy, the 2 mental resource cost. So even if you like helicarrier with like if you're playing a group and all your friends helicarry you, to where the next card that you played reduce the cost by 3, you can't play this card because it's a requirement to pay for this card. And then whenever you play an aggression attack event, so after you have this card in play, which is already kind of hard to get in play, especially if the villain's giving you a lot of pressure, if you pay for that event using a mental resource, increase the amount of damage. So you need to still use mental resources to pay for all your attack events forever. So yeah, I know I'm like speaking like down on this card, but I think this is an amazing card with an amazingly powerful effect because getting that aggression events are usually more expensive than like your hero kit events, and this really takes that expensiveness and puts it in your advantage. So I think it's a very, very good card. Yeah, I mean, like with Dive Bomb, because it's a 4-cost event, even with like the uppercut card, which is a 3-cost event, right? I mean, so many. Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be an S tier level card, but it's just a lot of conditions. So in the right deck, I think it's an S tier card. But I think most of the time, and especially against villains that are dealing you a lot of pressure, it can be very hard to get out and very hard to utilize. So because of that difficulty, I'm putting a C tier. But definitely first in C tier because of its crazy potential. Okay, next we have Jorn. This is a 1-cost upgrade and is restricted as well, so you only have 2 restricted cards per player. As a response, after your hero attacks an enemy, spend a physical resource and deal 2 damage to an enemy. So Jorn I think is super duper good. It goes either first in the B tier or in the A tier for me. So Jorn, it's super duper cheap. It's just a 1-cost upgrade, right? And then the bad thing about this card is that you have to constantly spend a physical resource after your hero attacks if you want to do that extra damage. But you don't have to, so you can just keep it in play. But the really cool thing about this card is that it does not exhaust. So you can trigger this effect infinitely if you're attacking multiple times, right? So theoretically, if you attack, you spend a physical resource, you do 2 damage. If you ready up your hero, attack again, you can do another 2 damage by spending another physical resource and just keep on going because this never ends. And a lot of there's an aggression card, an event that where you can exhaust a weapon upgrade and then do 3 more damage, right? Yeah. So I mean, just being a weapon upgrade that does not exhaust, I mean, it has some pretty good synergy. Let me actually pull that up. So mean swing here is the card that I'm talking about. So this is an aggression card right here, right? So this is a 0 cost event, and it's a very powerful card. Hero interrupt: when your hero makes a basic attack, exhaust a weapon upgrade on your hero gets +3 for that attack. So this card is so good with Jarm because Jarm is that weapon upgrade that doesn't need to exhaust to trigger its effect. So you can mean swing, exhaust Jarm, and then when your hero makes that basic attack, still spend a physical resource to do 2 more damage. So it's giving you 5 more damage on top. Yeah, so I think because of that, I'm actually going to put Jarm in the A tier here because it's so much synergy with aggression cards, and even if you're not playing into the synergy, it's just always going to be useful to have out because if you ever have that extra physical resource, you can just discard it or spend it or like whatever, so you can do an extra 2 more damage to ping off. And this is not an attack activation, right? So when you do that 2 damage, it will bypass stuff like retaliate. You can just ping off toughs, and it will bypass guard as well, right? It's 2 damage to any enemy, not the enemy that your hero just attacked. So a very useful card, very powerful. I'm gonna put this in the A tier here. The only bad thing is that it will require a lot of resource over time because you have to constantly spend that physical resource. But other than that, I mean, definitely a very good card. Next, we have a 1 cost upgrade, Lie in Wait, max 1 per player. Hero response: after a minion engages you, discard Lie in Wait, do 3 damage to that minion. So the thing that I don't like about this card is that it's only max 1 per player. So you can't just put 3 Lie in Waits and just wait for it. You have 1 at a time. I think that limits it a lot because then you can't stack up on minions, and then you can't do it. There's multiple minions coming into play at once. But I mean, it's a decent effect after minion engages you. So just right when the minion comes in, it's kind of like the leadership Hawkeye effect. I don't think it's the best card. I'm gonna put it last in the C tier. Definitely a very situational card. And then you only do it 1 time. It's 1 cost, and you just kind of wait there until a minion comes in play. But definitely, if there's like a 3 hit point minion that comes in play, you can just defeat it right away. That could be very useful. But yeah, I don't think there's that many situations where this card's gonna be good, so it's gonna go in the C tier for me. Next, we have another 0 cost upgrade, Marked, attached to a minion, and then the attacks against attached minion gains overkill. So I think this also kind of depends on the type of deck that you're playing. So this is going to be another C tier card. If you're playing with the deck where, like with what's it called, with follow through, where you're getting excess damage, where you want to do overkill, giving the minion overkill is going to be useful. However, I think I'm gonna put it pretty low in the C tier. Actually, I'm gonna put it above Lie in Wait. But it's not going to be that good because most of the times in those decks, you already have another way to get overkill, right? So if you have the hand cannon, you already have overkill. A lot of heroes that play that type of playstyle already have overkill, and a lot of card effects in aggression already have overkill. So this is a good card to give you overkill if, like, for some reason you don't have that overkill that you need. But most of the time, I think that overkill is decently easy to get, especially with the hand cannon right here. Okay, next we have, overkill is easy to get, at least in aggression. So next we have a 2 cost upgrade, Martial Prowess, play under any player's control, max 1 per player. As a resource, you can exhaust this card to generate a physical resource for an attack event. So this is a very good card. It's very useful, especially if you're playing attack events. And what's so nice is that it's for any attack event, even for your identity-specific attack event. So it doesn't have to be an aggression attack event. So I think this card is at worst B tier. And is it an A tier level card? I mean, a physical resource that helps a lot of aggression events, right? Because if we look at like, I'm gonna look at Dropkick here, right? So Dropkick is one of the best aggression events. And for this card, do 4 damage to the enemy. If you pay for this card using a only physical resource, stun the enemy and draw 1 card, right? So it's great that it's a physical resource with the Martial Prowess, generating that physical resource. And you also have a Relentless Assault, which is another amazing aggression card here, right? 5 damage to an enemy. If you do to a minion, I mean. If you pay for this card using a physical resource, the attack gains overkill, right? So yeah, I think because the physical resource has so much synergy with aggression, 2-cost upgrade, so it's so cheap. If you're playing a lot of attack events, yeah, this is gonna go into A tier. But the thing is, you have to be playing a lot of attack events. If you don't have a lot of attack events in your deck, this card's gonna be pretty useless. And you cannot use this card to generate a thing for J-Jer because J-Jer is not an attack event, right? It's not even an attack. It's just a response that deals damage. So you have to kind of be a little bit careful what you're spending on because you can't trigger it for everything. But I mean, I think that this is an A tier card. It's just a very useful and cheap resource generator that any deck can put in that any hero can utilize if they're playing aggression, right? So I think a very, very good card. Next we have a 1-cost upgrade, Now I'm Mad. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. While your hero's remaining hit points are less than half your hero's starting hit points, your hero gets +1 attack and -1 thwart. So this is kind of like a beneficial thing if you're always low and you kind of choose, right? So usually when you're healthier, you want to be able to remove more threat. And whenever your hit points are lower, you might want the extra attack because you're ready to gun the villain down or something like that. Not my favorite card unless you can control your hit points a lot. So if you have a hero that can control your hit points based on what you want, then it's very useful. But I think because most of the time, if my hero's hit points are low, maybe I'm about to lose and I need help removing threat. Getting that -1 threat could be pretty bad, but at the same time, it could be good if you're playing a deck that calculates your hero's attack, because then you're going to have 1 extra attack. So I think in a correct situation, this can be a good card, but most of the time it's not going to be that useful. I'm putting it actually last in the C tier here. I don't think I'm really ever going to use this card, but I could definitely see a time where it could be good in those situations. Okay, so another 1-cost upgrade, the Direct Approach. Attached to a non-permanent side scheme, limit 1 per side scheme. So you're going to put 1 on each side scheme. Attached side scheme gains Assault. So Assault basically means that whenever you thwart it, you can use your basic thwarts against a scheme. You can use your attack stat instead of your thwart stat, right? So this card is going to benefit off all those cards that we're talking about, right? Like with the Brute Force, where you get +1 attack. With Fluid Motion, where you get +1 attack. Even with the Now I'm Mad, right? Because now your attack stat is going to help you thwart because it gives the side scheme the Assault keyword. I think this is pretty decent in aggression and has synergy with all these cards, but because it still works with all these cards here, it's also going to go in the C tier for me. And I'm going to put it, yeah, I'm going to put it here in the C tier. I think this would be a lot, like, I think this would be a very good card if it was a 0-cost upgrade, but if I had to pay a cost to get it down, you'd have to spend resources for it. And then, yeah, it's very situational as well, right? It works well with a lot of the other cards in the C tier that calculate that attack stat. So, yeah, I think it's nice to have an aggression, but being 1-cost is a little bit expensive just to give a scheme the Assault keyword because you have to spend a resource anyways to get this card down. And lastly, we have our last aggression upgrade. It's a 2-cost upgrade. Uses 3 warrior counters, so it comes in with those 3 counters. As an interrupt, when your hero attacks, remove 1 warrior counter from here. That attack deals 1 additional damage. So this is a situational card. Let me see. I'm gonna put it in. Actually, I'm gonna put it pretty far down here. No, but there's more situations, so I'm gonna put it right over here. Right. So most of the time, having this thing out is not gonna be that good because you only get 1. The attack deals 1 extra damage, which is, I mean, it might help sometimes with minions, but a 2-cost upgrade is pretty hefty for that type of effect. But if you're playing a hero like Gambit, where Gambit has the card, let me see, I don't know if I remember the name of the card. I think it's called Royal Flush. So, yeah, it is. Okay, so if you're playing Gambit, right, where you're playing this attack event, right, deal 0 damage to enemy, deal 0 damage to enemy, deal 0 damage to enemy, and then you trigger the warrior skill right here, then it does 1 additional damage for each instance of this attack. So it actually does 3 more damage for only 1 counter for the warrior skill. So if you're playing a deck that has cards or a hero that has cards that do those multiple instances of attack for each event right here, right, like the Royal Flush is a very good example of that, then warrior skill becomes like, an A tier plus card, right? It's a super duper powerful card for heroes that do that. But I think that that's a little bit more of a niche archetype to be playing, and most heroes don't have access to that, and most heroes don't want to be playing that type of way. So because of that, it's gonna go into C tier and pretty low in the C tier. But definitely, if you can't take advantage of it, like if you are playing Gambit in aggression, I mean Gambit aggression, this is a staple card for him. But other than that, I don't think this card is gonna get much light. So yeah, this is my aggression upgrade tier list. And I don't have any S tier cards. So I don't think there's any auto includes in a deck for aggression upgrades. And definitely all these cards, I mean, I played multiple aggression decks where I don't think I've used, yeah, I think I have many aggression decks where I don't use any of these cards here. But I mean, definitely I can see a lot of them being useful. Yeah, Combat Train is actually in my opinion, the best aggression upgrade, which is kind of simple, right? It's just that +1 attack, but I think that's so invaluable for any type of deck style that you're playing. And then the Hankin, I mean, all these other cards, they have to have a little type of, you have to kind of play in that specific way, right? You kind of have to lean into a specific style to maximize the full benefits of any of these cards, right? Sometimes when I'm playing aggression, I don't include attack events, which makes some martial prowess useless for that type of deck style. If you are playing events, then it's very good. Um, yeah, or if you're playing a lot of attack events, I mean. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends. I think a lot of aggression has a lot of different archetypes and a lot of different playstyles that you want to play them in. And to maximize the effects of these cards, they all have synergy with other cards, right? So like a lot of cards I was saying that calculate your attack stat, aggression seems to be an aspect that has a lot of synergy. And to maximize their effect, you need to use a lot of other cards as well. You can't just put one in. And I like a lot of those one in versatile cards a lot more. So I think that's why I kind of have a lot of the aggression cards a little bit lower. So yeah, that is my aggression upgrade tier list. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.